Well, welcome back to today's episode, and it's about what happens when life doesn't go the way that you planned, when everything feels out of control, uncertain, and maybe even unfair. And we're talking about faith in the middle of chaos. Our text for today is in Acts 16 to 34, where we find that the Apostle Paul and Silas in one of the most intense moments of their journey. You see, they've been beaten, imprisoned, and locked in chains. And yet, something really unexpected happens. Instead of despair, they choose worship, and everything changes. Paul and Silas are in Philippi and continuing their mission. They encounter a slave girl who is being exploited for profit, and Paul frees her from that oppression. And that act of freedom creates a really bad backlash. Her owners are furious. Their income is gone. So they drag Paul and Silas before the authorities. False accusations follow, and the crowd joins in. The situation escalates quickly. Without a fair trial, Paul and Silas are beaten and thrown into prison. Not just any cell, but the inner cell, the most secure, the most isolated. Their feet were fastened in stocks. It's dark, it's painful, and it's unjust. And if there was ever a moment to question everything, this was it. But instead of giving in to the fear of frustration, around midnight they begin to pray, and then they start singing. So let's just pause there, because this is where the story becomes deeply personal. Your response to hardship can transform outcomes. Paul and Silas couldn't control their circumstances. They couldn't undo the beating, and they couldn't open the prison doors, and they couldn't change what had already happened. But they could control their response, and they chose worship. Not because things were good, but because they trusted God even when the things weren't. And that's what faith looks like in chaos. Not denial, not pretending everything is fine, but choosing trust in the middle of uncertainty. And that choice matters more than we can even imagine and realize, because your response doesn't just affect you. It shapes what happens next. Our second takeaway is faith isn't about comfort, it's about trust under pressure. It's easy to have faith when life is going well, but when doors are opening, when prayers are being answered the way you hoped, about when everything feels like it's falling apart. That's where real faith is formed. And Paul and Silas didn't wait for the situation to improve before they worshipped. They worshipped in the middle of it. And that's a challenge for us, because we often tie our faith into our circumstances, our trust when things make sense, or our have peace when the situation improves. But this story flips that thinking. It shows us that peace, trust, and faith can exist before the breakthrough, not after. And our third takeaway, your attitude influences others. While Paul and Silas are praying and singing, something important is happening in the background. The other prisoners are listening. So think about that. In a place filled with fear, frustration, and hopelessness, two people choose a completely different response, and it stands out. It creates curiosity. It shifts the atmosphere. Then suddenly, an earthquake. The prison shakes, the doors fly open, and chains come loose. The jailer wakes up, he sees the doors open, and assumes that the prisoners have escaped. And in that culture, that meant one thing: death. So he prepares to take his own life. But Paul called out, "Don't harm yourself. You are all here. We are all here." And in that moment, everything changes. The jailer who had been guarding them is now asking, "What must I do to be saved?" The faith of Paul and Silas didn't just sustain them, it impacted someone else's life forever. So here's something important to notice. The breakthrough wasn't just the earthquake, it was the transformation of a life. The jailer and his household came to faith. What started as suffering led to salvation for somebody else. And that reminds us that breakthrough isn't always escape from difficulty. Sometimes it's about purpose within it. So let's bring this all back. We all have moments that feel like midnight. Moments of pressure, moments of uncertainty, and moments where things feel dark and heavy. So here's the question. What does your midnight moment look like? And how are you responding? Are you overwhelmed by the situation? Are you waiting for things to change before you find peace? Or is there a way to choose trust even now? And you may not be able to control the chaos, but you can choose the response. And that choice might not only change your perspective, it might change someone else's life too. So thanks for listening today. If this podcast has resonated with you, take a moment to reflect on how you respond and when life feels uncertain, because sometimes faith in the middle of chaos is what leads to breakthrough.